Hello and welcome to WTNB Today. I'm your host, Wendy Benton. Thank you for joining me. I have a very special guest today. I have Genesis, who is the poet and author of Words in Gray. Welcome to the show, Genesis.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about you, your history, and how your name Genesis came about. So if you don't care to share with our audience a little bit about you.
Yeah, I was born in Chattanooga, but my dad was in the military, so we traveled a lot. And the name Genesis came from a friend of mine, Joe, in the early 2000. He just felt like what I was trying to do with music and poetry. He just felt like it was the beginning of something different, and so he was like, "Man, I'm gonna call you Genesis," and it just stuck. And everybody, I think, liked Genesis a little more than Russ. So I don't know. It just stuck with people. They kept calling me Genesis.
That's great. How old were you?
17, 18, maybe 16 even.
Wow.
Yeah.
So about the last 15 years you've been Genesis.
For a while it's been Genesis.
And you traveled. You said your dad was in the military.
Yeah.
Born in Chattanooga, but traveled around the country.
Yeah. I only spent 3 days in Chattanooga. When my mom, she was in Georgia, and she drove because she was familiar with the doctor. He was the same one that birthed my sister, and so she felt comfortable with him. And so she drove to the hospital. I was born, and then 3 days later, she drove back to Georgia. And we've been moving. Like, we'll live in a place for a year, and then we'd move. Or we'll live in a place for 2 years maybe, but then we'll move. So
you've had a lot of experience, just different cultures and different people around the country.
Yeah.
Did you ever travel outside of the U.S.?
No. My dad did a lot. And they might have had the conversation, but my mom, she didn't want to leave the country, so we stayed, and he kind of did his thing and would come back.
Okay. Well, tell us what inspired you to be a poet and author.
It all really started in middle school. I had a teacher that he just conveyed his love for language in a way that it just opened up the world to us, or at least to me. It exposed me to a lot of things I didn't even know existed. I didn't know you could express yourself in these ways. I was just so used to rap music or something like that. I didn't realize there was this whole I guess element behind, I don't know, just kind of tapping into that hidden wholeness. He did just such a great job of allowing us to explore our own brilliance, and I think from that it just matured into what I'm doing now. But that was the start, was the middle school. I wish I knew his name, but.
So through high school you were writing and composing music.
Yeah.
Now, did you have a music background?
No, not really. No.
So you're writing lyrics and
writing lyrics.
What type of artists would play the songs that you write?
It was mostly hip hop when I was writing. I just try to make it as real as possible, because there was a period of time where we all were writing about stuff we didn't do, and that was kind of what everybody was doing around us. They was rapping about shooting people and crazy stuff. Nobody was doing it; they were just talking about it. But eventually, I had some good mentors around me that were like, "Hey, man, you should talk about, real life. Talk about some real stuff." And I don't know. I think the background with poetry just helped me to communicate something that was real. And so that's around the time my homeboy Joe started calling me Genesis, because I kind of, the trajectory on where I was going was just kind of, it switched from, what everybody else was doing to something else.
Now, so how old were you when you wrote your book?
The book came out this August.
Okay.
And a lot of the material I wrote over the last 2 or 3 years, some of it was as fresh as a month before the book came out. Some of it was 2 or 3 years old that I included inside of it. But I guess all within 2 or 3 years.
Okay. Now, you weren't always just an artist, composer. You were talking to me before we came on air about your job at an engineering company, and
Yeah.
so you were sort of living that mainstream life.
Yeah.
The house, the mortgage, and
Yeah, for sure. And I think it scared my parents when I decided to quit and really go after, following my passions fully. I just, at the time, I felt like risk is what keeps us young, and that if I was going to jump out and try something, I'd be better off doing it now than waiting until things got really complicated. So
yes.
So I jumped out there.
Well, and you said that you rented your home, traveled.
Yeah, rented my house. I lived in New Jersey and New York and Lower East Side and Brooklyn and some other places, and it was good. I needed that, and I got to hang with artists that were making a living doing what they love. So it helped me to see how it wasn't as abstract, because when you look at art and music or poetry or writing, like when you think about how people make a living doing it, it can feel abstract, like it's a mystery, like it's magic or something. But when you're sitting with the guy or you're sleeping on his couch, I was couch surfing for a while. So when you're right there seeing how this guy, what are you doing? Oh, I'm going to a meeting. You have meetings? Yeah, I have meetings every week. I have like 10 meetings a week. What are these meetings for? Oh, it's to talk about different projects. And so I'm seeing, he's trying to communicate his value that he can bring to a project that has a budget. And so I started to see, okay, that makes it a little easier when you can, I guess, have a model to go for.
That's interesting that you took that kind of that mainstream person, the maybe the business-minded person or whatever the professional maybe he was, as opposed to the flowery trees and grass and birds angle. That some artists get into the whole nature, or like you said, the abstract. You're taking something that's everyday and creating something from that. I think that's amazing, and it maybe separates you from a lot of artists.
Oh, appreciate it.
I don't know if that was your goal or not, but that was your experience.
Yeah, it just kind of happened. It wasn't my goal, but yeah, you got to figure it out, man, because you got to pay bills, so you gotta figure out. I think that's the creative part of it, is figuring out, all right, do I have what is my God-given talent, and then what is my passion, and then following those things, and then getting creative to, okay, how can I monetize this? Like, how can I communicate the value in whatever it is I'm creating or doing? And yeah, once you got that lined up and figured out, it doesn't take long at all.
Right. Well, and that's what I think I have found so interesting just talking to you, is you had a plan. You said that before you really kind of got rid of all of your, the home and sold it and everything, you rented it, but you had a plan.
Yeah, you gotta have a plan. If you don't have a plan, you'll be in some trouble. You gotta have a plan. Or you'll just feel like you're toiling, like you're just kind of running in circles, because you're doing a lot of work. It's just, if you don't have a game plan, it's like not really going anywhere. It's not aimed at anything. You're swinging, but you're swinging wild. You're like missing your target. So you gotta have a plan.
Well, and I've loved that about you, your attitude and just your vision. Even though you're this creative person, and you just don't, you just didn't let it all go and get out there and just see where you landed.
Right.
You're taking it and taking your passion and making something of it. And part of that, you offer poetry workshops
Yeah.
twice a week in Chattanooga.
Yeah, yeah. Words in Gray. I named the book after the workshop. So in the back of the book, there are these creative exercises, so the reader can kind of delve into his own thing. But the idea behind the workshop, it's not really to make you the best writer in the world, although I think a byproduct of the workshop and the exercises is better writing. The main goal is just to build creative confidence, to explore, and so we do a lot of interesting exercises that just kind of, work that creative capacity.
Okay, and you have all different types of people come to the workshops.
Yeah, from homeless to college students to business leaders, companies, ad agencies. I've been getting a lot of ad agencies lately, actually, but most of the time it's a really diverse group.
Now, why would a business professional feel the need to come to the workshop?
Well, right now, in the business world, a lot of executives are in these dynamic, kind of fast-paced environments. In story, we live in a world where we're like malnourished of plot, and a lot of businesses see the value in story. And in the Harvard Business Review, they said that poetry is one of the best tools to build an acute empathy, to understanding yourself, the world around you, building that emotional intelligence. And you can take this when you're in these fast-paced environments, you can break down these chaotic things in a way that's understandable, and you can communicate it back in a way that's easier to understand. And so there are some companies that, for managers, they look for poets, or at least someone that writes poetry or reads poetry, because there are original system thinkers. And so there's a lot of research that I've been able to pull up to support why poetry makes sense to business leaders. I don't remember all that.
No, I think it's great. I think it has great value, just like you said, and the whole communication aspect of it, especially if you're an analytical thinker.
Yeah.
You're moving them into a realm that they don't normally think about or live in. So it does bring value to their position and communicating with their peers.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, what about the homeless? You said you
Oh yeah,
invite them.
yeah. I love. I have my apartment is right next to the studio, so downtown Chattanooga, and so I'm always walking. This whole year, I've tried my best not to drive. I drove here, but I tried my best not to drive. I've just been walking around, and so I just invite whoever I come across. Hey, what are you doing tonight? You should come to the poetry workshop. We'll have food and drinks, and we'll have a good time. And so a lot of times you'll get 4 or 5 guys that you just saw on the street that they're just coming in, and some of them blew us away. Like some of them are amazing poets. You wouldn't even know.
Wow.
They're just brilliant writers, and but all the time we have a good time, and it's a good time.
Well, that's good. I mean, your diversity, to get up that you're making a living at what you're loving to do, your passion, and you put it in book form, and then to bring in another group of people that wouldn't have the opportunity to be exposed or to hear or to share their thoughts and their talents with others. And so many people would look at them as not that they don't have value, but maybe that they don't have anything to share or to say.
They usually have the best things to say. At the juvenile detention, sometimes I'll go to the juvenile detention center and do a poetry workshop, and it's the same thing. It's some amazing stories, and these are kids that are 11, 12, up to 17. Some of them are facing some really serious crimes, but through the poetry workshop they can kind of escape where they are, and you see these some of the most amazing writers are just, you know, they just haven't explored their own talent, their own brilliance. So they didn't know it was there. And then they'll read it, and then everyone's like, oh, man, that's amazing. And they're like,
Wow.
they're looking around like, oh, you know, man, I do got some talent.
Yes.
I love seeing that.
Right, yeah, and give them hope.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, things may not look so good in their life at the moment, but you and you know, just bringing that to the forefront of their mind can give them hope and an opportunity.
Yeah,
You don't know
yeah.
what doors you're opening.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if someone wants to get in touch with you, if they're interested in your workshops, how would they do that?
The best way probably would be email right now. And it's just info@wordsandgray.com.
Okay.
And so if you email me, I can add you to the sign up list, and we can communicate.
Okay.
We can come down to the workshop.
That's great. I think it's wonderful. You're doing a great job, and I've so enjoyed having you on the show, Genesis.
I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you being here, and we hope you've enjoyed today with Genesis, and we will see you next time on WTNB Today.